might be. You've just alluded to the fact that he's been stereotyped even here in this room. And now you can imagine what 200 million other Nigerians are saying. So no matter what he says, how do you think the fact that he might be stereotyped, would taint the reception of his message, no matter how right they are?
So here's the thing. There's a thin line between being disruptive and being destructive, right? So he definitely wants to change the status quo, but how he wants to go about it is where people have a problem with, right? Nobody's really saying that Omoyele Sowore is not the best thing since sliced bread. He has his own brand of politics, right? But here's the thing. I believe in meeting Nigeria where it is before you talk about where it can be. Do you understand? I'm a person of faith. Bible says, thou shalt say unto this mountain. There's no cognitive dissonance. You must admit that there's a mountain. Yeah. The cognitive dissonance, the intellectual dissonance. No, I don't know Nigeria is bad. No, you must engage the system. Do you understand? You can't say, oh, I'm anti the system, but the system needs to make you president. So you must lean to, like you said, tone down that, and almost like, it's not so much that you are not, you are condemning, you are kowtowing to the system, but you must realize that, hey, I can give and take. You will not have it all your way. Nigeria will not become utopia in 2 years, in 10 years. So you must admit there are flaws, but hey, here am I come with a radical message. I'm going to meet Nigeria where it is, and when I'm getting the opportunity, I'll take it to where it should be.
Right. Professor Kila, do you think that do you think that the way or some of the issues that Sowore have been involved in, with the federal government this year might in some way affect how Nigerians receive his message?
Well, I think it will affect it. I mean, there's no doubt, what you talk about, chronicle, his history, is a collection of facts. He's been arrested, he's been accused, he's been detained. Those who are informed are going to look at that. You talk of 200 million people. Out of the perhaps 200 million people, maybe 100 million people in reality, out of those millions of people, you'll be shocked that a lot of people might not even be aware. So they will get to know that today. The ones who are aware of it will have that somewhere in their mind. But I think, whether he's stereotyped or not, I think it's a gamble. I think he needs to stick to his message. If you want to give him an advice tonight, perhaps what you should do is that with all the stereotype, with all the activism, this is the night you should come out and show people that I'm not just passionate, I'm also competent. The way to do that is to use facts and figures, hopefully verifiable ones. Right. To actually break it down and show people that I'm not just angry, I also have the solution. Because I think so far in the history of Nigeria, we've had this problem where we have good but incompetent people. Some appear competent, but they tend to be morally challenged. So somehow we're struggling with this balance which we need. Mm-hmm. And it's an opportunity, for him to show that, yes.
Right. So, one thing that cuts across a lot of the candidates we've seen, so far that have expressed interest in this top job is the approach that they've taken to, their campaigns. This is not Sowore's first time, throwing his hat in the ring. Having watched watched his moves in the past few months since we entered the campaign season, for me, do you see any, difference, in his approach to campaigning this season than what he did, the last time out?
I don't see it. I don't see it. And so that goes back to one of the reasons why I say that he needs to take off the guard. Because in the last elections, he had 33,953 votes, about 0.1% of the entire votes. He needs to show to us what he's doing differently, this time.
So you think the campaign message last season and this time out, to me, I feel like it's still the same. And
going back to that, your question about how people receive him. So it's very instructive for me, like during the NSARS, for example, if you remember, he tried to participate and over time, over and again, the protesters refused to have him on. For some people, because I covered the protest, for example, I had to go back and ask them. For some of the people I asked, they said, look, he has a way of owning this thing, and they didn't want it to make it look like, oh, this is, so they didn't want that. So talking about, going back to that question about how it's for some people like, oh, he went to prison, he feels our pain, and then, that might endear them. And some other people like, what, we don't want to have anything to do, with this guy. So like Professor Kela said, really, you never can say there's a one-size-fits-all to how your president should be. It's a paradox. It's politics, so we never can tell. But for me, I haven't seen anything different from the last time he campaigned as well.
So in terms of what the messaging will be from Sowore this evening, what are your thoughts on what Nigerians should expect from him?
So for me, I think the advice I'll give Sowore is that the biggest voting bloc are actually the most animated. Do you understand? You have been doing this for a long time. your messaging has to cut across, right? She mentioned that this kind of generation of voters, they want leadership to be democratized. They don't want somebody to be the face. They don't want messiahs. So they want to feel like they own your message. But he feels like we should buy into his message. When I mean we, I'm talking metaphorically, right? So I think you should realize that, hey, I'm just one of you. I'm coming to you. Yes, I've gone through a lot personally, but that does not make me entitled to leadership. Criticism, going to what Professor Kela said, criticism does not equal competence. You should come and say, hey, I own an organization, a media organization. I've employed people. I'm successful. I've built this. You should show his capacity for governance. That's why I say stereotyping. He must deconstruct himself in a way that, okay, yes, you know me for this, but this is a part of me. Because your supporters alone cannot make you president. Even the ruling party, they know they cannot beat them chairs. I see all these things on social media. It's in the bag. Nobody can beat them chairs and say, I've gotten it. Because your supporters alone can't make you president. So you must reach out to people outside the box. Even if I'm party A, there's some people that don't like your radical message. Some people want it conservative. Nobody's saying you should change your messaging. That would be disingenuous. But realize that a lot of people need to make you president. So I think you should reach out to those people, make the effort. Even if they don't agree with you, they can see the effort.
Right.
That's what I think.
Right. And in terms of, what your Nigerians, what your advice to Nigerians will be this evening as they watch, Sowore try to convince them that he's the best person to occupy Aso Rock next. What do you think, how do you think Nigerians should sort of
view it?
View his
and
message?
assess him, you guys.
Yeah.
I think Nigeria should look at him and say, can this guy be a CEO? Look at him and think, has this guy got what it takes to be the CEO of, company Nigeria? And maybe they should think that, okay, if he can't be CEO, what else can we offer him? Like a proper job interview. Somebody comes to say you want to be CEO. And sometimes I look at them, because I do recruitment, and I think, no, you can't be CEO. Perhaps you can be director of corporate affairs. Or perhaps you can be in charge of logistics. I think Nigerians should think that. But you see, but that said, one of the most fascinating things about the candidate Sowore for student of politics is that it allows us to identify three kinds of candidacy. There is a candidate who comes to make a statement.
Correct.
There's another candidate who tries to win. Okay. Then there's a candidate who will win whatever it takes, who will do whatever it takes to win. Like all human factors, it is never just one. It's a bit of everything. I think Sowore is more of make a statement and try to win, but heavily make a statement kind of candidacy. And that affects everything. It is possible to argue, and I've noticed this, that he comes to the table saying, not really messianic, to say that, look, if I become president, I will help Nigeria. I will help Nigeria. If I don't become president, I have another life. But I think it's good for me to become president.
Right.
I think it's important for Nigerians to look at Sowore in that key as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the responsibility of going beyond the tactics of candidates is also responsibility of voters.
Right. You can join this conversation wherever you are in the world by tweeting at @thecandidateNG. You can also use the hashtag #NG_the_candidate, hashtag #NG_the_candidate. That's how you can join the conversation in the studios this evening from wherever you are in the world. In just a moment, Kadre Ahmed will sit with Omoyele Sowore and his running mate, Haruna Garuba Magashi of the African Action Congress, and they will attempt to convince you to vote them into Aso Rock in February 2023. Fumi, let's come back to you and just piggyback off what Professor Kila said earlier, that, people like Sowore come in to make a statement and to win. What do you make of that,
I
assessment?
totally agree. What, like he said, he's tilting more to making a statement. He's everywhere, fighting everybody and everything.
So if you think he's here to make a statement, right?
Yes.
What would a coming into this game to win strategy look like?
Okay, so first of all, like I said, the activists don't make it look like you're fighting even all of us that want to vote for you are fighting everybody. We're all stupid. We don't know anything and all of that. Just calm down. And then, because for me, one of the things I even wrote here was that I don't even understand what his ideology is. What exactly is he selling to us? Everybody has this. That's for me. I don't get it. I don't get it. So I think if it's able to just calm down, and maybe tonight I'll get to listen and understand, what exactly his ideology is. It's totally different from what the other candidates are offering. Then I appreciate his struggle. I understand where he's coming from. He has been doing this for university days. He was a student union leader and everything. And there are pictures of him with MKO. So yes, he has risen through the ranks and paid his dues. But I don't get, so he just needs to sell himself more and in a more combative way.
What do you think people like Sowore do for the Nigerian consciousness?
So for me, Sowore is an embodiment of rebellion. Right, so he's literally like I will not kowtow to the system. It reminds me of Fela a lot. Do you understand? Right. When Fela is not trying to sell out stadiums, the MTD, Madison Square, it's not that you say I no go agree. Do you understand? Do you understand? He's trying to let you know I no send the government. He's not trying to sell out the O2 like Burna Boy. Do you understand? He's not looking at streaming numbers. He's like me, I no go agree, and people love him because he is the embodiment of that rebellion. But like I said, beyond that, we know what he's against. What is he for?
Yeah.
Do you understand? I know you don't like this, you don't like that. I'm sure I can almost place a bet. A Sowore in the Aso Rock will not do certain things. But what will you do?
Yeah.
Do you understand? Some of the candidates that look like they're getting traction, they have been known for something. So people are not, Nigerians have gotten to the point that we are not really looking to take chance gamble because we have become collateral damage for failed political experiments. So we want to know why are we staking out our collective destinies for you?
Yeah.
So I think that's what you should double down on.
If Sowore doesn't make it as president, would you still love to see him in government?
I think he's a candidate. Personally, I'm going to say the very candidate. He's a candidate of the future, right? The demography for him is not here. May not have that critical mass, but he's important for the demography because he deepens demography. He has that. He's the kind of person that has the kahunas for uncomfortable conversations where everybody's shining for. Sowore will say it and he doesn't care. True. Do you understand? So there's a Sowore in the future Nigeria. I don't know that he's here there. He may have voters, but critical mass, I doubt it.
What do you think Sowore does for the consciousness of the people?
Well, I think it's good for Nigerian conscience. It stimulates it, and sometimes it embarrasses a lot of people. It shows limits, it shows possibility. I think it's good for the conscience. But then again, conscience is not political.
Right.
But it's a strong element of what we do.
Right. And look, for me, regardless of the, outcome in February 2023, what would be, in your opinion, the biggest lesson from seeing people like Sowore, go from activist to actually throwing their hats in the ring and saying, look, send me to do this job?
The biggest lesson is to show that, anybody can, as long as you're Nigerian, you can, run for, president, you can run for any office, even though I always say that, let's come from the bottom up. It's just like even in any corporate society, you're not going to just bring somebody and put the person in. But he's outspoken, he's spoken out his mind, he has said stuff like he's going to overhaul the entire constitution. So don't be afraid, dare to dream. But I don't know how to say, yes, there should just be a balance here, because you see, something very instructive that Professor Killer said is that, yes, you need the numbers. Like how you started talking about Fela, you said streaming and numbers, but you need those numbers to win today. So in as much as you don't care, you need those numbers. So let it be a lesson for people that are going to run. Be activists, be in the news, be everywhere, fight everybody, but calm down. You will need those numbers. I just think it's going to turn around and become votes for you. In Nigeria.
When you actually talk of these numbers, right? How are you projecting his core voting block is distributed across the country?
So again, Professor Killer made a very instructive point. A lot of people, and I'm saying this respectfully to his voters, a lot of people voting for Sowore are not voting for him to win. They're voting to make a statement. They're going to defiance. That's the word, defiance. Do you understand?
So you don't think that it is spread? You don't think that there's geographical spread to it?
He doesn't have it. 93 million people on the voting register, right? So you need a critical mass. You need 25% in 24 states, right? So you cannot. Look at the guys that are leading. Do you understand? They are doing a lot of work, leg work, and all that. So yes, he might have funds, but Nigeria is allegedly 200 million people, but a lot of people have to buy into your message. A lot of people have to they must see themselves in you. There must be a strategic self-interest without being even coy. Do you understand? People say, you know what, he has not talked to me, but it's in my interest to vote for Shore. Until he gets to that point, he may not be president.
Do you agree that Shore has a more ideological spread than geographical spread?
Well, I think so, yes. I think those who are with him, going to vote for him, are working for him, are people who are informed, they're activists. They tend to be more radical than the average voter. I think, here's the thing. We're running a first-past-the-post system, a majoritarian system. If we're running a proportional system, if we're running a proportional parliamentary system, a candidature coalition will be a very attractive one because you just need 4 or 5% of the vote to matter. And sometimes people will strategically push you so that you can push certain things. The bloc that wants to change everything, it could be gender-based, it could be... There is a good example of a party in Europe. Italy started from Radical Party, where one of their major things was to legalize drugs. And, generally they got their 6-7%, got into parliament, and then they influenced other things. But the kind of system we're running does not allow